This house is now mine, you know? If you can't accept that, maybe we should get a divorce? Although our father's passing was still recent, seeing William going on about changing the property name to his shocked me. After all, changing the property name isn't something easily done. It seems like William might be misunderstanding something. I don't mind divorcing. But are you sure you won't regret it? He probably didn't expect me to accept the idea of divorce so easily. William, looking surprised, responded, "Why would I regret it?" The way he said it, his face was mocking me. So he really thinks he won't regret it, huh? If that's the case, there's no need for me to worry any further. If he ends up regretting it later, that's not my problem. How naive can he be? Imagining William's future, I chuckled internally. I am Rebecca Smith, turning 35 this year. I work as a civil servant. Ever since I was a child, being serious-minded, I felt the civil servant job was a perfect fit. Especially my father, who always told me from a young age to choose a stable job. So, when I passed the civil service exam, both my parents were overjoyed. Of course, it's not 100% guaranteed that being a civil servant is a safe job. But for now, I think I can continue this job without any problems. My father encouraged me to pursue a stable career because of his own experiences. After graduating from university, he joined a startup company. He dived into this small company of 10 employees with full enthusiasm. However, sustaining a company isn't easy. It's said that even within a few years, it's tough for small companies to survive. The company my father joined faced financial difficulties and went bankrupt within 2 years. He began looking for another job but seemed to struggle to find a good one. So, he decided to start his own business. Despite limited expertise, he chose the food and beverage industry and slowly built it up. The number of shops and employees grew, and he was always concerned about sales and profits. Most of the shops were renovated vacant houses or his own home, so he didn't worry about rent. As a result, as customer traffic increased, so did the profits, and over 35 years he accumulated substantial wealth. Yet, he encountered countless challenges. Managing a business is not only physically but also mentally challenging. As the business grew, people attracted by money came closer, and interpersonal issues deepened. There was even an instance where a trusted employee embezzled shop earnings. He truly understood the difficulties of having assets. Therefore, he probably always genuinely wished for his daughter, me, to lead a stable life. Working as a civil servant suits my personality, and I'm grateful to lead a fulfilling life. It might not be luxurious, but I'm living comfortably. I always wanted to maintain this peaceful everyday life. I'll be home late again tomorrow, so no need for dinner. I've heard this conversation so many times before. Wiping my hands after doing the dishes, I listened to my husband, William. Again, is the factory really that busy? It's the peak season now. William has been working in a semiconductor manufacturing factory since graduating from high school 18 years ago. The factory job is line work. Day in and day out, processing the continuously flowing parts must be exhausting, both mentally and physically. I can't imagine it, but according to William, it's simpler and better than a complicated job. Speaking of which, the demand for semiconductors is rising, isn't it? Sounds tough. Yeah, so I might be coming home late for a while. It must be hard, but hang in there. Recently, coming home late at night has become the norm, sometimes even stretching into the next day. It's hard to believe that William, who works at the factory, would be working until such late hours. He's probably stopping by a bar after work. I understand the desire to unwind with a drink after a tiring day at work, but it seems excessive. But I couldn't really bring myself to tell him directly and chose to overlook it. The drinking expenses are probably coming out of William's pocket, so maybe it's not a big issue for the household? After watching William head to the bedroom, I tried moving my shoulders slowly. Lately, I've been feeling some stiffness there. With our lives separated from each other, I wonder if the physical and mental stress is catching up, making me feel stiff. I decided not to dwell on it too much. William and I met when I was in my second year of high school. He attended a nearby boarding school for boys and randomly approached me during a school festival. Being a year younger than me, I hesitated when he asked for my contact information. But I couldn't resist William's persistent approach and eventually opened up to him. When I asked him what he liked about me back then, I was surprised to hear that he was fond of my appearance and aura. William seemed shallow back then, not appearing sincere at first. But as we got closer, I was captivated by his unexpected loyalty. Even after graduating from high school and while I was pursuing higher education and working as a public servant, William was always by my side. We got married when I was 27. However, we were not blessed with children. At this rate, it's unlikely we'll have children. But there's a unique happiness in our childless married life. I'm sure William cherishes our life together too. Despite our busy schedules, we live a peaceful life as a married couple. Then, one day, my phone suddenly rang. "Hello, Rebecca, I'm glad you answered. Are you at work? Are you busy?" "I am working." "What's going on?" "I usually don't receive calls from my mother during weekdays." Thinking something important might have happened, I asked. "Your father suddenly collapsed. We just got the test results, and he's been diagnosed with colon cancer." "Cancer? No way." I doubted my mother's words for a moment. We never had anyone in our family with cancer before. But it's true that my father, being self-employed, often neglected his health checkups. It's highly plausible that we never noticed his condition until now. It's true. It seems to be quite advanced. But modern medicine can treat cancer, right? For your father, they said he might not have much time. Maybe a few more months. Only a few months. It was hard to accept. My father is 60 years old, and the rapid progression of the cancer made sense. The late diagnosis was also a reality. Despite advancements in medicine, there are limits to treating terminal cancer, my mother said with tears. "I understand, Mom. I'll come home for a while. I'll talk to William." "Thank you, Rebecca. My father means the world to me. It's inconceivable not to return home in this situation." I'm sure William would understand. I finished work that day with a heavy heart and headed home. William was unusually at home early and noticed that I looked unwell. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" William was relaxing on the sofa, drinking a beer. I immediately shared my mother's news with William and confirmed with him if he'd be okay with me staying with my parents for a while. "It's tough, isn't it? Stay by your father's side and support him for now." "Yeah, thank you. I might not be able to prepare dinner tonight." "Okay, don't worry about it. I've been coming home late recently, so I'll eat out and come home." "You should have a proper meal once in a while." "It's fine, leave it to me." William surprisingly took it all in stride. Relieved by William's response, I prepared for the trip back home tomorrow. At night, when I tried to sleep, I heard William's voice from the next room. It seemed he was on a call with someone. I didn't intend to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help but overhear a few words. "I think he'll pass away soon. Can you handle the matter we discussed before?" "Pass away? Is he talking about my father?" "I see, understood. Thank you." I wasn't sure about the details, but it was clear that William was discussing my father's situation. But the way he chose his words was quite discomforting. I never heard William complain about my father before. While they weren't especially close, I didn't think William was the type to be concerned about such a serious situation. Besides, my father is still alive. Discussing posthumous matters at this time with a third party is unimaginable. From that moment on, I began to have doubts about William. Ever since this incident, my distrust towards William never faded. Despite him kindly telling me to take care, I couldn't shake off the memory of last night's call while at my parents' home. Maybe William is hiding something. It could be related to my father's assets. I never informed William about the specifics of the assets. I've avoided discussing money, fearing potential complications. I thought it would be best to discuss inheritance details in the future. I felt it wasn't the right time yet. not because of any deliberate secrecy, but because it didn't seem necessary. But what if William knew about my father's assets? And what if he was after them? I want to believe that's not the case. Pushing aside my ominous feelings, I supported my father in his daily life and enjoyed our time together. Rebecca and Mom, thank you. I'm truly happy. Why this sudden sentiment? Don't just blurt out things like that. It's too early to be saying such things. My mother and I tried to lighten the mood with our smiles, but my father simply gazed at us with a quiet smile. About 3 months later, the peaceful days with my father came to an end. His passing was much sooner than expected, and my mother and I struggled to come to terms with it. My mind was blank during the funeral, unable to accept the reality. On the other hand, William was unusually lively, making it hard not to feel suspicious of him. It wasn't until a week after the funeral that I finally began to process things. I was in the living room mindlessly holding a drink, when William appeared. "Hugh, all the troublesome matters are finally over. I'm tired," saying so with a cold expression and hands clasped behind his head. "What troublesome matters are you referring to?" "Your father. I wished he'd passed away sooner. But once he did, the funeral preparations were so hectic. I didn't think it'd be this much trouble." "How can you say that? Do you realize what you're saying? My father has passed away." "How dare you speak like that?" Shocked by William's words, I responded emotionally. It was as I feared. He had been waiting for my father's passing. Come to think of it, he had that phone call about my father some time ago. What was that all about? "So, when do I get the inheritance? Your family has considerable assets, right? Your dad must have made a lot of money." I realized then that William was after my father's inheritance. I couldn't believe that William had been thinking about this without telling me. But why? I had never detailed my family's financial situation to him. However, from what William said, he clearly knew that my father was wealthy. How do I know about this? Anyone would realize it with a little thought. My family has been poor since I was young. Just feeding the family was a struggle. I noticed the comfortable life in your house and the frequent trips your parents took. From that, I guessed you were rich. So, I did a little research. Research? Who did you talk to? The word research that William used caught my attention. I remembered him talking on the phone one day and felt that it was related. I have an acquaintance who's a lawyer. I heard a bit about inheritance procedures when the old man died. I intend to claim my share. What are you talking about? I was shocked that William had consulted with someone else about my father's inheritance while my father was still alive. I found it hard to believe that this man was my husband. As for the inheritance, I'll get a detailed response soon. Look forward to it, haha. He relayed this to me and went back to his room. He probably intended to contact that judicial scrivener again. I was astonished at his audacity. Who investigates their wife's parental inheritance without permission? The inheritance is a family matter. Disappointed by William's actions and growing mistrustful, I stopped talking to him. Though I had not spoken to William for days, about a month later, the situation abruptly changed. William had supposedly been investigating his share of the inheritance. However, my father's assets were appropriately inherited by me and my mother. The grand mansion, worth $1.3 million, that my father left behind. The inheritance was too much for me. I had no intention of living in the inherited house anytime soon, but it was too luxurious to neglect. Simply turn it into a vacation home, rent it out, or even sell it. As I pondered, William, whom I hadn't spoken to in days, initiated a conversation. "Rebecca, long time no see, have you been? Haha." It was sarcastic for him to say long time when we were living under the same roof. Ignoring his remark, I picked up a nearby book. "Ignoring me, haha. The mansion you inherited from the old man, I've changed its registration. Just so you know." I looked up at him in shock. "What do you mean? What are you saying? I told you about the lawyer I know, right? I had him proceed with some paperwork." "Paperwork? You mean a change of ownership? What else could it be? Haha." What's he talking about? It's unbelievable that he'd go through such a procedure without telling me. And any lawyer that would do that is definitely suspicious. So, the mansion's mine now. If you don't like it, we can divorce. His insensitivity, happily discussing this just after my father's death, made my head spin. Changing the ownership of a house isn't that simple. William must be misunderstanding something. I decided to let his comments slide for now. I can't forgive everything William has said and done about my father. I'll plan carefully and ensure he gets what he deserves. Divorce, that's fine by me. But you'll regret it, just so you know. William looked shocked by my words. He probably hadn't expected me to accept divorce so easily. Regret? That's impossible, haha. William replied with a smirk, filled up with confidence. I see, he really doesn't regret it. If that's the case, I'll proceed with my plans without hesitation. Even if he comes crying later, it has nothing to do with me. However, I wonder just how naive he can be. I couldn't help but chuckle, imagining what lies ahead for William. With determination, I used every method at my disposal to delve deep into William's past. First, I took paid leave and searched his room while he was at work. The disorganized room was littered with various items. I picked up something from the floor and slipped it into the inner pocket of my coat. Then, I checked his computer and opened his messaging app. Is this the lawyer you know? In the messages, there were conversations with someone named Jorge Brown. The content was disturbing beyond belief. Most of it was about money. How to obtain illicit funds. I can't believe it. I sighed deeply. Seeing William cooperate with such a person made me feel more than just dismayed. Leaving the room, I headed to another location to continue my investigation. During my thorough probe into William's actions and background, I was shocked by his true nature. The more I uncovered, the more his previously unknown side was revealed. The thought of having trusted and lived with such a man as my husband sent shivers down my spine. The situation became clear, and all my feelings for William vanished. I submitted the divorce papers to the city office. After all, it was William who had first mentioned divorce, so the process went relatively smoothly. The divorce was finalized, marking the end of our relationship. I never expected it to come to this, but my feelings for William, who had trampled on my father's memory, were completely gone. Where had the William I once knew gone? Through my investigations, William's true character was laid bare. He was truly a despicable person. The divorce was approved, and the house was no longer mine. The house we had lived in was mortgaged under William's name. So, I thought I should leave, but William stopped coming home a few days later. He's probably living carefree in the mansion I inherited. He's probably enjoying himself without a care in the world now. But how long will that last? Despite the situation, I remained calm and wondered about William's future. 3 days later, William showed up again. Hey, Rebecca, you've already filed the divorce applications, right? He barged into the house and with a voice that sounded like a cry, questioned me. I wondered why he would suddenly show up and ask something so obvious now. What? It's too late now. So, we're no longer husband and wife? He raised his voice, clearly panicked. Yes, I filed them 3 days ago. They were accepted, so we are now total strangers. No way. William's face turned pale. He had initiated the divorce, but he looked as if I was the villain. How could you do something so selfish? You were the one who brought up the divorce, right? I just followed your wishes. As I responded with reason, William was left speechless. I had a rough idea of why William was so desperate. Rebecca, please, marry me again. Otherwise, He collapsed on the floor, pleading. What a pitiful sight. Did something happen after our divorce? I had a rough idea of what was troubling William, but I pretended not to know. Some debt collectors came to the house. I tried contacting Jorge, but I can't reach him. He changed his number. I can't send emails either. He deceived me. Jorge is an acquaintance of William's who claims to be a lawyer. William, you were deeply involved in gambling behind my back, weren't you? When I searched your room, I found casino receipts. Also, I was told in detail when you visited the casino in the neighborhood. You've been going there for over a year without telling me, haven't you? No wonder you're running out of money. That unexplained withdrawal from our joint account was because of that, wasn't it? And you were deceived by that so-called liar. Indeed, William was addicted to gambling without my knowledge. All those late nights he said he was working overtime were just for gambling. Then, my father fell ill and probably saw the inheritance coming to me as an opportunity. He seemed to have consulted with a lawyer named Jorge on how to make that inheritance his. Yes, I'm sorry for the gambling, but I was deceived by Jorge. He was supposed to make the house you inherited mine. That guy is unbelievable. I'm almost bankrupt now. Please help me. How pathetic. He proposed the divorce, but now he's begging for reconciliation. Does he think I forgot that he was eagerly awaiting my father's death, even before being deceived by Jorge? I'm so appalled by William's attitude that I want to forget he's my ex-husband. What are you blabbering about now? It's all because of your horrible habits. Who would help someone like you? You're so naive, that's why you get deceived by others. It's impossible to change the name of the house I inherited without my permission. It's something you'd know if you just looked it up. You were just fooled by Jorge because you were being careless. I will never forgive you. Seeing how emotional I had become, William shivered in fear. I walked past the slumping William and headed for the front door. Well, I'm moving to the mansion my father left me. It's my house. Oh, this house is in your name, right? Good luck with the loan repayments. Wait, Rebecca. Leaving William's sorrowful cry behind, I confidently left the scene. A week later, I received a call on my mobile. It was William's mother. Worried that she might blame me for divorcing William without discussing it, I answered the call, but the content was unexpected. Rebecca, I'm so sorry for the trouble my foolish son has caused. How can I ever apologize? Please, don't worry about apologizing. Just saying sorry isn't enough. He suddenly asked me for help with the repayments. I was so shocked and disgusted by what he did. But don't worry, from now on, I will educate him properly. He will never gamble again. I'll make him focus on work and teach him the value of money. William's mother was genuinely angry about her son's actions. It seemed she had resolved to take strict measures. Hearing this, I mocked William in my heart, wondering if he could withstand this kind of discipline. What William did to me and my father is unforgivable. Obviously, he should focus on repaying his debts. I moved to the luxurious mansion my father left me as planned. It was already furnished beautifully, so there was little need to buy new things. I left behind some of my belongings and clothes in the old house, so I need to get new ones. But even that felt exciting, and I was thrilled about starting a new life in this fantastic house. This house is almost too luxurious for someone living alone. It's truly wonderful. Of course, I don't want to marry again for now. But if I ever find the right person in the future, I'd love to invite them over. They would surely be astonished by this mansion. As I thought about this, I couldn't help but smile. Thank you, Dad. Grateful for the wonderful assets my father left me, I embarked on a new chapter of my life.